Every man has a moment when he realizes something is fundamentally broken. Mine came on a Saturday night at a party I didn't even want to attend. Cindy, my wife, insisted we go. It was Megan's birthday, one of her colleagues from the office. She spent what felt like an hour getting ready, arguing with me over which shirt was less dull. That should have been my first warning. The party was packed with people I barely knew, all holding drinks and laughing a bit too loud at jokes that weren't funny. Megan decided we should play a game, truth or dare. Childish, but we played along anyway. It was supposed to be fun, until Megan, drunk and grinning, pointed at Cindy and said, "All right, your turn. Truth. If you could swap Gordon for someone else, who would it be?" The room burst into laughter, waiting for the punchline. I waited too. Cindy, smiling too widely, tossed her hair back and said, "Swap? Easy. Ethan from my spin class. He actually listens." The table erupted. Someone knocked over a drink. Megan cackled like a hyena. I forced out a laugh, just like you do when your wife makes you the punchline in front of a crowd. Cindy winked at me, tried and make it seem harmless. But it wasn't. I swallowed what I really wanted to say and raised my glass in a silent toast to my own humiliation. The night blurred after that. Cindy kept drinking, kept laughing, with Ethan, who'd shown up halfway through. She looked happier standing next to him than she had with me in months. I stood there, glass in hand, feeling like I didn't belong in my own life. On the drive home, the silence in the car was heavier than any argument could have been. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my fingers ached. Cindy was scrolling through her phone, humming as if nothing had happened. And that's when I knew something had shifted between us, something that couldn't be undone. When we got home, the garage door rattled shut. Cindy was out of the car first, kicking off her heels before she even made it to the porch. I followed behind, slower. Inside, she dropped her purse on the counter and went straight for the fridge, grabbing a bottle of water, as if she hadn't just humiliated me in front of a room full of strangers. "You're mad?" she said without looking at me. "Not mad," I replied, leaning against the door frame, just wondering when I became a joke. She laughed under her breath. "Oh, come on, Gordon. It was just a game. Grow up." I watched her unscrew the cap on the bottle, dismissive, like none of it mattered. "You picked Ethan," I said. She shrugged. "It's not like I meant it." "You sure about that?" I asked. She turned to face me, finally looking at me. "Seriously? You're going to make a thing out of this?" I kept my voice calm, crossing my arms. "You've been texting him." Her face twitched, a subtle reaction, but it didn't go unnoticed. "What if I have?" she snapped. "It's not like you care. You barely even notice when I'm in the room." I pushed off the door frame and stepped closer. "You're right. I didn't notice. Not until tonight." Cindy set the bottle down a little too harshly. "You're being ridiculous. Ethan's just a friend, that's all." I didn't answer right away. I just watched her, feeling the weight of the silence. "We're just bored, Gordon," she said, softer now. "Every couple hits a rough patch." "This isn't a rough patch," I replied, my voice steady. "This is you looking for the exit." She opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. Instead, she turned away, busying herself with pointless tasks, straightening mail, adjusting a vase. I went upstairs without saying another word. When I woke up the next morning, her side of the bed was cold. And that's when I knew we weren't bored. We were broken. 3 days passed. Cindy and I barely spoke. We moved to the house like strangers, exchanging clipped words about groceries and bills, pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. On Thursday, I came home from work earlier than usual. Cindy was upstairs, probably getting ready to go out again. I tossed my keys on the counter and spotted her phone next to her purse. She must have just come back and left everything there, like she always did. I wasn't proud of it, but I picked it up. A message preview lit up the screen. It was from Ethan. "I had a great time today. Miss you already." I didn't need to unlock the phone. That one line told me everything I hadn't said aloud. A few minutes later, Cindy came downstairs, adjusting her earrings. She froze when she saw me sitting at the table with her phone in my hand. Her smile faded. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Waiting," I said. "For what?" I slid the phone across the table toward her. "For the truth." She stared at the phone, then at me. Slowly, she crossed her arms as if shielding herself. "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" I raised an eyebrow. Cindy shifted her weight, defensive. "I'm allowed to have friends." "Friends who miss you already?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Fine." We had lunch. "With Ethan?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Yes, Gordon. With Ethan. Because he listens. Because he actually sees me." I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding but face calm. "So go be seen." "What's that supposed to mean?" she snapped. "It means you've made your choice. I'm just making it official." She stared at me, and in that moment, I knew if I said one more word, she'd break. "You'd throw away our marriage over a few texts?" she asked, her voice rising. "No," I replied. "You did. For a moment." I thought she might break down, but Cindy wasn't the type to show vulnerability. She squared her shoulders, her expression hardening, and said, "Fine. Maybe I should leave." I gave a brief nod. "Maybe you should." She grabbed her phone, her bag, her keys, and stormed out. No begging. No apologies. Just pure anger, sharp and biting. The door slammed behind her with such force that the walls trembled. I sat there, staring at the empty space she left behind, the silence settling like a blanket over the house. And for the first time in a long time, I realized something that made my stomach turn. I didn't miss her. Cindy didn't come home that night. I'd like to say I lay awake questioning my decisions, but the truth was, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, the world outside seemed the same, cloudy and cold, but inside, something had shifted. A weight had finally lifted off my chest. I made coffee, toasted a bagel, and sat at the kitchen table staring at her contact on my phone. I didn't call her. Instead, I got up, grabbed some boxes from the garage, and began packing up her things, clothes, shoes, the bathroom stuff she hadn't touched in months. I filled each box slowly, methodically, stacking them by the door, not rushing, not hesitating. I was halfway through when I heard her car pull into the driveway. She stormed inside like she still owned the place. "What the hell is this?" she snapped. I stood up, wiping my hands on my jeans. "It's what you wanted." "You can't just pack my stuff," she protested. "You left," I said, my voice calm. "I'm just finishing the job." Her eyes darted around, landing on the boxes. "This is insane, Gordon. You're being petty." "No," I said. "I'm being clear." She opened her mouth to argue, but stopped herself. For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear cross her face. She backed up a step, then another. Without a word, she turned and slammed the door behind her. The sound echoed through the house. I stood there, surrounded by boxes, feeling lighter than I had in years. I knew that every time I responded to her, I gave her power over me. But not anymore. One night, I came home late from work to find her sitting on the porch steps, her mascara smeared, her hair pulled back as if she hadn't even looked in a mirror. When she saw me, she stood up, her voice desperate. "Gordon, please don't do this." I walked past her, unlocked the door, and said, "You need to leave." She followed me inside. "We're not done. You're just hurt. I get it, but we can fix this." I dropped my keys on the counter. "You're right. I was hurt. Now I'm just tired." "You're being stubborn." "One mistake, and you're ready to erase everything?" she asked. I turned to face her, really looking at her for the first time in a while. "It wasn't one mistake. Cindy, it was all the choices you made after, the way you laughed at me behind my back, the messages you sent to someone else, the way you made me feel small without thinking twice." She opened her mouth to argue, but no words came. I grabbed a folder off the counter and held it out to her. "What's this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Divorce papers," I replied. Her hands trembled as she took them. "This isn't you," she murmured. I shook my head. "No, this isn't you either. Not anymore." For a moment she stood there, staring at the papers, her face blank. Then she slowly placed them on the table. When she looked up at me, her expression was cold. "You're making a mistake," she said. "Maybe," I replied, "but it's mine to make." Without another word, she picked up her bag, shouldered it, and walked out. This time, I didn't watch her leave. I closed the door behind her and locked it, not to keep her out, but to keep myself in. The house was different after she left. Quieter, yes, but not empty. It felt lighter, like I could finally breathe. Days passed, and I got used to the silence faster than I expected. A week later, I sat on the back porch, a beer in hand, watching the sunset paint the sky. My phone buzzed on the table. "Cindy." I stared at the screen for a long moment. "I miss you." "Please, Gordon," it read. I turned off the phone, set it aside, and didn't look back. It wasn't anger anymore, or sadness, or regret. It was just done. A month passed, and the divorce was finalized. I signed the papers without hesitation. Megan sent me a half-hearted apology on Cindy's behalf, but I didn't respond. The real shock wasn't how much I had lost. It was how little I missed it. I started running again, signed up for a woodworking class, and took a weekend trip to the mountains alone. Cindy would have mocked it as sad and pathetic, but for the first time in years, I felt at peace. It wasn't sad. It was freedom. Every now and then, I'd think of Cindy, her laugh when she wasn't trying to impress anyone, the way she used to curl up next to me in silence. But then I'd remember the cold look in her eyes at night on the porch, the way she chose someone else, pretending it was harmless. Some things you can't come back from. Some things you shouldn't. 6 months later, I was sitting at a new coffee shop downtown when I saw her. She looked thinner, worn down, as if life had knocked her around a bit. She didn't see me. She was too busy arguing with someone on the phone, pacing outside, her arms flailing in frustration. I took a sip of my coffee and watched her, feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret, just distance. I paid my bill and left through the side door, hoping she wouldn't spot me. Later that night, Megan texted again. "Cindy's with Ethan now. It's a mess, and she looks miserable." I stared at the message, then deleted it without replying. I didn't need updates. I wasn't rooting for her to fail. I wasn't rooting for her at all. I had stopped playing that game. That night, back at my house, a place that was finally mine, filled with things I actually wanted and the silence I welcomed, I thought about the conversation at Megan's party, about the joke, about how quickly you can lose everything you thought was solid. Sometimes, losing it is the best thing that can happen to you. Because the truth was simple. Cindy didn't break me. She just showed me what I was too stubborn to see for myself. I used to think love meant staying no matter what, suffering in silence, forgiving every wound, laughing off every hurt. But now I know better. Love is supposed to be something you run toward, not something you survive. Before heading to bed, I checked my phone. No new messages. No missed calls. Good. I turned off the light, lay back, and smiled to myself. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for anyone. I already had everything I needed. And if Cindy ever wondered what finally broke me, what made me walk away, she'd never understand. It wasn't one big betrayal. It was death by 1,000 small cuts. Cuts she never thought I'd feel, until I did. And by then, I wasn't hers to hurt anymore.